Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Okay, Ben, I'll hand over to you.
Sure. So the first question here is from Philip Andrade, and he's asking if catch and processing certificates, if they're going to be online available once completed, or will there be a lag if they require signing?
Do we have anyone from Marine Scotland Compliance on the line who could help with that? I'm assuming that, you know, the catch certificate is an online system. There shouldn't be a lag in terms of, you know, once
Lucy,
that's... Thanks, Gregor.
Sorry, Lucy, I was having some connection issues there. Yeah, the catch certificate process will be entirely online. You'll apply for your catch certificate. If everything's okay with it, you'll get it submitted back to you immediately. You then need to send it to your importer in Northern Ireland, who will have to submit it to the competent authorities there.
Okay, thanks, Gregor. A similar question from the same person in regards to populating the information on the catch certificate. He says, when completing the catch certificate, company details and representative are requested. This detail then populates the catch certificate, but the company representative is shown as skipper of vessel. Yet we are the processor. Is this okay? Yes.
Yeah, that's a known issue in public beta at the moment. That will be addressed when the system goes live. It should be the exporter's name that's in there, so that will be amended. And the only thing about the vessel will be the details of the vessel and the date of landing.
Great, thanks, Gregor. Peter Mossop asks, as we export smoked salmon to the EU, would there be any benefit in sending goods through Northern Ireland and then to EU via Southern Ireland?
It's Kieran here. Do you want me to come in, given I'm from the Northern Ireland side?
Excellent, yes.
So basically, like the line to take is that we are working to the same experience that you'll have in any other EU port. So until we hear anything different out of the negotiations, as I say, there will be no difference.
Mm-hmm. And Michelle Johnson asks, do we know when we'll get access to traces as exporters?
I thought the tracer system was available for application now, but we'll check that just to make sure that it is available for you to sign up to.
So, hi Lucy, so from Northern Ireland perspective, the importers in Northern Ireland will be using traces and documents that will need to be uploaded as an importer, which will originate from an exporter. The Northern Irish, say, importer are now registering traces and getting training, but there is the facility for an exporter, but that's again part of negotiations, I believe, for a third country to use traces, if you know what I mean, which GB would be in this instance.
Thanks, Kieran.
Thank you. Philip Andrade asked another catch certificates question. The catch certificate process is not currently allowed for canned or smoked fish, resulting in being unable to populate with the correct commodity codes. We are assured this will be fixed, but we will not see this until after December 17th. If this doesn't happen, will there be a manual override option?
So in terms of the canned fish, so we know this is an issue, and we've raised this on multiple occasions with DEFRA, and we believe that it will be fixed. But we can clarify if there's a plan B if it's not, but our understanding is that it will be fixed before the end of the year.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Lucy. Kirsty McGuigan asks, will lobster caught in Scotland and being exported to Northern Ireland require an EHC?
Jonas, Kieran again. So yes, is the simple answer. Same certificate as what Lucy pointed in her presentation.
Yeah, so for crustaceans and lobsters, they don't move as live animals, they move as products of animal origin, and you would use the fisheries EHC. Yeah, to move the goods.
Michael Cunningham asks, we supply 50/50 crab meat to retailers, which is subsequently exported. This product may come from over 20 different vessels, combining landings from multiple days. We don't believe the catch certificate is possible for this realistically. Could you advise us on this?
Gregory, still there?
Sorry, yeah, terrible connection problems. Could you repeat that question again?
Yeah, sure, Gregor. We supply 50/50 crab meat to retailers, which is subsequently exported. This product may come from over 20 different vessels, combining landings from multiple days. We don't believe the catch certificate is possible for this. Could you advise?
A catch certificate is required for it. That's if it's less than 20% fish, a catch certificate wouldn't be required, but as it's over 20% fish, a catch certificate will be required. I really don't know. I understand the process, but catch certificates are required, and for traceability as well.
Ross McDonald asks, can the same landing data be used across multiple catch certificates? As an example, where the material is processed multiple times and each time is moved across border control posts, each time it is processed and each movement requires a catch certificate, or does the subsequent moves just use the original catch certificate?
What we require there is there'll be one catch certificate, and any processing that takes place out with the country of origin of the catch certificate will require a processing statement. So the processing statement will have a reference back to the original catch certificate. So just a processing statement, but a reference back to the original catch certificate number.
Great. Lynn McKinnon asks, would the same journey checklist steps be required for shellfish transported from Great Britain to Southern Ireland travelling through Northern Ireland? Also for shellfish purchased from Southern Ireland and brought back to Scotland via Northern Ireland?
It's Kieran again here, so I'm happy to take this one. So as I said there earlier, it's the exact same experience through Northern Ireland as it would be through Dublin or France until, say, we hear anything different out of the negotiations. But what we are working to is that what might come out in negotiations, or we hope, is that there will be a very low inspection requirement, but that an EHC may be required, and that's what we're telling our importers is to get ready for. So it's not always about the inspection all the time, it's about the actually producing of the paperwork. That's a very good question about Southern Ireland. So obviously Southern Ireland doesn't have unfettered access like Northern Ireland does. So their expectation will be that there will be an EHC required, but obviously that's a GB decision, and I believe on day one they're not asking for that, but at some stage they will. And maybe just to expand this question, so you have to think about where the product's going to end up, and this goes for Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. So if you're bringing products across from the island of Ireland to GB, and then it's subsequently going to go to the EU, then you will need what we call a supporting health attestation, because you'll need to do an export health certificate for that journey to the EU. So basically an EHC will be required in both regards for Northern Irish and Southern Irish to allow you to export it to the EU. And that also goes for the catch certificate. So for instance, if you know that the product's going to go on, again, you'll need the information from Southern Ireland, and you need they'll need the Northern Irish fishers to make sure that their information is in the Fish Export Service database, so that a catch certificate can be produced. And we are working with our fishermen to make them aware of this predicament.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kieran. That looks to be all the questions in the chat. I don't know if anybody wants to ask anything to any of the panel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Michael Cunningham here who'd asked the question about 50-50 crab. So obviously it's clear that we need to produce a catch certificate, although however as a detailed, we could be looking at so many different catches, different days, and we also mix batches here that it also feels impossible to create that with so much info being required from our supplier. Is this a potential point where we should be speaking to our end customer to say that this is looking impossible? Would you advise?
So I think, yeah, we're aware that the multi you'll need to fill out a multi schedule catch certificate. We would recommend that you sign up to try the catch certificate system on the beta version, and just see how long it would take you. Whether it's, you know, I guess that decision on whether it's a commercially viable process is something that you'll need to decide for yourself. But you know, I would certainly try the catch certificate system and see if you can, you know, how it works for you, and whether there are any sort of solutions that you can put in place that allows you to put in that information. You know, it's just a requirement, unless there is something that comes out in any sort of negotiated deal that removes the requirement for catch certificates. It's something that will be required for Northern Ireland and to the EU. Sorry, there's no easy answer to that one.
Yeah, I don't think there would be. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we've had some more questions come in for the chat. Peter Mossop says, we've been asked by our transport to set up a French VAT number and EORI number to enable import of goods into France and then onwards. Would this still apply if we imported into Northern Ireland and shipped through Southern Ireland to EU, or would a Southern Ireland VAT number be required as well?
Kevin, could you pick that one up?
Yeah, so let's work through this one then. So first of all, I think moving goods to Northern Ireland to Southern Ireland to the EU, obviously you've got to look there at the various transport routes and the actual context of cost of the movement, as to the viability. But if you feel it works, then so be it. If you're moving goods from GB to Southern Ireland, upon entry into Northern Ireland, then clearly processes such as the inbound customs declaration, the entry safety and security declaration will still be required. There is legislation due to come out on anti-avoidance. I'm not saying this, this is deliberate avoidance, but where Northern Ireland is being used, if you like, as the back door to the European Union and vice versa. So I guess that has to be considered. In theory, an export declaration, if you move goods through Northern Ireland, is not required, as it would be if you moved the goods from GB to the European Union direct. Clearly, the export health certificate is required. I guess we need to understand that journey, and the VAT number is required if you're selling on DDP, delivered duty paid purposes, but probably that there are a number of considerations there that need to be required with regard to that. But if you are using Southern Ireland selling on DDP terms, you will require an Irish VAT number in that respect.
Thanks, Kevin.
Another question from Philip Andrade. We have fish imported from EU and UK now that will be used in processing packaged fish in January. We've asked the supplier to provide a catch certificate now, but they say they cannot as the stock is in the UK, EU just now. Does this mean our only option is to request the catch certificate 1st of January and hope we get it the same day? Or is the supplier wrong and a catch certificate can be raised for EU fish in stock in the UK now, meaning this to accompany the processing certificate?
I can take that one. They are quite right in saying that a catch certificate can't currently be issued because we're basically still in the EU, so they won't issue a catch certificate at the moment. What will need to be done is you will need to have a processing statement done for that fish, and at the point where you're ready for export, you will need to speak to the single liaison office in London regarding what number should be put into the catch certificate number. It is a known issue for stocks of fish that are in the country at the moment that need to be re-exported to the EU, and there will be a workaround for it. If you can also keep any sales data that you have regarding that fish, that will ease the process somewhat.
Great, thanks, Gregor. Ross McDonald asked, for hub consignments, the supplier requires a support attestation from the local environmental health officer to allow the OV at the hub to create the consignment export health certificate. But the catch certificate is only required to go to the import agent BCB, not go with the load.
Yeah, so the catch certificate is a purely online system, and you do not require to have a hard copy going with the load. It's just the export house certificate that remains with the load.
Paul Thompson asks, what is required for bringing whitefish from Northern Ireland to the UK?
So, hi, Leslie, just maybe the important thing to note is here is what you're going to do with that fish. If that fish is going to remain in GB, our belief is the same as what Lucy's presentation pointed out, that it's unfettered access, so it's business as usual. But if that whitefish is subsequently going to go back to Northern Ireland or back to Ireland or onto the EU, then it brings in other things like a supporting health attestation to be able to produce an export health certificate to get you to the EU, and then it brings in catch certificates as well. So therefore, you'll have to use FES to produce a catch certificate from vessels that landed that fish, either Irish or Northern Irish.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. Yeah, it should be subject to unfettered access. So, it's where it goes on to that matters in terms of, what additional processes might be required. But we would encourage you to sign up to the trader support service. Ben, are there any other questions?
Hi, I don't know. It's Lou here. I don't know if Ben's on mute or having some trouble. There is a question saying the trader support service, is that only available for NI? Can I suggest, Kevin, you take that and use the opportunity to explain a bit more about it?
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, that's great. Can I just check, apologies, just joined, have there been any slides on the trader support service so far, or that's my bit to talk about that?
So Kevin, all we did was run through a quick slide on just saying, you know, that it was a free to access service, and a little bit about what it was meant to be doing in terms of providing support. But yeah, if you could provide some extra information, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi there. Sorry, just lost connection there. So yeah, with regard to the trader support service, it's there to support trade predominantly from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. So to very much cover that GBNI trade route. So goods being supplied from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. It will cover elements of the transit route, which I appreciate are probably not applicable for this, for moving, say, Holyhead to Dublin to Northern Ireland, but the main element is there. And in the limited number of circumstances that declarations are required for goods moving from Northern Ireland to Great Britain, but that is limited and shouldn't apply to this sector. So it and the responsibility for what we know as the inbound customs declaration and the entry safety and security declaration under the Northern Ireland Protocol is depends on the Incoterms. And I know there's another question on Southern Ireland, which I'm happy to take in a minute. So if you're selling deliver duty paid DDP terms to Northern Ireland, it will be the Scottish supplier who is responsible for that declaration, and that links in with the freight movement as well. If it is the Northern
Lost you for a second there, Kevin. Kevin?
Yeah, I think his signal's maybe perhaps just dropped out. So we'll just have to see if we can get him back online. Kevin, have you managed to rejoin? Are there any other questions, Ben, that we can take in the meantime until we can get Kevin back?
Yeah, sure. Philip Andrade asks, why are EHOs who know our factories well not allowed to do the supplier attestation under the GEF system? This has thrown us off the track as we now have to find a vet who has no knowledge of our factories or our products. Will this change?
So an EHO can sign an export health certificate. It's not just an official vet. It depends on the product that you are sending and the EHC, I think. But for fisheries products, the environmental health officer will be able to sign the EHC. And if you, Kieran, do you know more about the GEF system, how if it applies to Northern Ireland? I guess I've still got questions about that.
No, the GEF system is something on your side. So we're working to, as I say, we're virtually in the EU, we're what we call an assimilated member state. Therefore, as you were saying earlier about import requirements, they're no different than they are for Ireland, France.
Do you want me to take one?
We accept the EHC and upload it and trace it as our part of this.
Hi, Lucy. This is specifically about the supplier attestation that we need. We had the EHOs lined up to come into our factories and do the attestations every 30 days. But we've now been told, or they've been told, that they're not allowed to do them. They can only be done by a vet. So we have had to drop the EHO route. These guys are in our factories quite often. They know our factories, they know our products, and we now have to go to a vet. Any vet, you know, a cat and dog vet, I understand even. So we now have to scrabble around and try and find a vet that can come in and do these attestations for us. So our question was, is there any likely turnaround and common sense will prevail and the EHOs will be allowed to do it?
Do you want me to take
I'm
this?
assuming this is, yeah, go on, Fiona. I was going to say this must be particular to the Jeff system. So
yeah,
if you know more about that, that would be
yeah.
great.
So I've just put it in. Craig, are you going to take this?
Yeah, is that okay, Fiona? If you don't mind, it's just that it's special in me because it was something that local authority colleagues had asked us to chase up with the Animal and Plant Health Agency and with DEFRA for some of their concerns. I mean, I had chased up earlier this week and I got an email back today to say that, sort of we're just basically reiterating the situation that you currently face. So we're planning to go back again to AFA just to ask, for further reasoning as to why that has to be the case. That it certainly doesn't make any sense to us when we've got EHOs who are available to do this. We've got EHOs who are familiar with the businesses, that they can't be allowed to issue the attestations on that basis. I think there's also an issue that ALPHA have come back, or DEFRA have come back and said that they don't think that this will apply particularly acutely in Scotland. So I want to kind of test a little bit more what they mean by that. I think there are clearly businesses that will be affected by that. But it's something that we're working on, and obviously we can send any sort of follow-up to you as soon as we get that from DEFRA. It's one of these areas where we've had kind of issues sort of on this with AFA in the past, where maybe their interpretation of the rules are a bit kind of gold-plated rather than showing the necessary flexibility given the situation that we find ourselves in. But it's certainly something that we're continuing to push, and we'll report back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, there's also an issue that the retailers have chosen to use the Jeff system rather than the risk-based fish system. So there's a bit of an awareness needed as well, but there is an alternative system. Is one of the things we've discovered.
Lucy, it's Pat. Can I just add something to what Craig's just said there as well? If that's
yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's just directly at Philip there when you were talking about vets and the sort of category of vet that can sign export health certificates and give attestations. So there's a couple of things there. You were talking about your ordinary vet who maybe operates on your cat or dog. Any vet who's going to be a certifying officer needs to be registered with AFA, with the Animal Plant Health Agency. So if they're not on that list of approved veterinary colleagues, then they wouldn't, even although they are a vet, they wouldn't be allowed to sign the export health certificate. And the issue around about Jeffs is where the certificate specifically requires an official veterinarian's signature. They can only, under Royal College rules, accept the attestation from other veterinary colleagues. So that's kind of the issue there. Lucy's right in terms of fishery products. If we're talking fishery products here, your EHO and your local authority can and should be able to pick up the cudgels for you on that one. It's only where it requires a veterinary signature, but the vets, as I say, have got to be on the approved and registered AFA list. I hope that makes some sense to you.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. They are on the list, but it just doesn't seem, it seems nonsensical to us that we have to go and through the route of a vet that is on this list that do not know our factories at all. Yet we do have a relationship with the EHO, know our factories and know our products, and they're specifically not allowed to sign these supplier attestations.
Yeah, not disagreeing with any of that at all, Philip.
Yeah,
nonsensical would be a good word.
Okay, great. Thanks everybody for answering that. Lynn McKinnon has asked a question. When purchasing shellfish from Southern Ireland to be brought either directly to Great Britain or via Northern Ireland, would you need a VAT number and EOA number for Ireland, or would these be provided by the company you are purchasing from?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Apologies for the last, my internet connection cut out, which is extremely unusual, so apologies for that. So again, that does depend on your terms of trade, your INCO terms that you are purchasing on. And I know we're not here to sort of give a session on INCO terms, but there's only one INCO term if you're purchasing on ex works INCO term, where you are responsible responsible for the declaration from Southern Ireland, which you would need the EU EORI and EU VAT number from Irish Customs in that instance. If you are purchasing under any other of the 11 Incoterms or the other 10, it will be your Irish customer that will make the declaration and obviously use their own EU EORI number and EU VAT number. So it very much does come down to the terms of trade, and that applies for anything. It becomes essential that you have to agree those Incoterms with the, in this case, the supplier. Sorry, I was just coming back before I cut off to the last bit. Apologies again for cutting off. If you're, I mentioned that if you're using a haulier, they need to register for the Trader Support Service and be ready to provide the data required to the Trader Support Service. If you are moving the goods yourself, then you will need to also carry out the haulage procedures that are required for GB to NI trade as well, which will need to provide data. So what I strongly suggest there is, in either circumstance, if you look at the Northern Ireland Customs and Trade Academy, the NICTA site, and I can put the link in there, there are how-to guides on the processes, also how-to guides on what Incoterms are and how they operate. So very, very important to look at those. And I'll put a link in the chat facility now.
Thanks, Kevin. And we can also make sure we put those links out with the presentation.
Okay, great, thank you. I just have one more question on the list in the chat here from Russ McDonald. Do both the export and importer need to be using TSS for it to work through customs declarations?
I think ideally, although having said that it'll only be one party with responsibility for the declaration, I think it's important that both parties sign. Sorry, apologies. So yeah, although there will only be one party making the declaration, it's important that both parties sign up to a Trader Support Service to again receive the training on the terms of trade and the operating model of TSS. So I think in summary, it's important for both parties to sign up, yes, and the haulier as well.
Great, thanks very much. I think that's everybody, unless anybody has any questions they would like to ask.
Yeah, if anybody wants to unmute themselves to ask a question, please feel free. No more questions. Last chance. Okay, well, in that case, if no one's got any further questions, oh, was that one last one? Is there a Trader Support Service from GB to EU?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I guess who knows what's going to happen in the next month, but certainly the Trader Support Service we're referring to here is for GB to NI.
Okay, if no one's got any further questions, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Thanks very much for your questions, and we'll email out the slides to the participants and we'll put them on the website with the links. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for everyone for answering questions.
Okay, thanks very much.